Initium SoftWorks and Electronic would like to welcome you to our webinar, Transforming Your Business with Process Automation, also known as Robotics Process Automation. As you can tell, we kind of take the robotics piece out of that and really call it what it is, process automation. Stay with us at the end of the webinar because we got a little something special. We got a little guy poking out there. We got a little free offer for you at the end of this webinar. So please stay tuned. Let's talk about who we are today and our presenters. First of all, on the far left-hand side, David Guzinski, that's myself. I'm a principal owner of Initium SoftWorks. We call it ISW for short. And I'm a senior solutions consultant as well. As a senior solutions consultant, I guide our clients' relationships and consult with them to ensure that they're receiving the maximum benefit from our solutions. Been doing this for over 35 years. And I've been able to manage our clients' expectations and build relationships, which is really important to me. My open style and personality allows me to create those friendly relationships. And that way I'm viewed more as a partner and not a vendor. John Emmett is with us. He is the head of marketing for North America at Electronic, the leading RPA vendor for managed service providers. He has more than 15 years of technology marketing experience, including 12 years in the IT software industry, targeting enterprises, small, medium-sized businesses, and managed service providers. And on the far right, we got Colin Sarmento. He's the principal owner of ISW as well, and the director of the IDC and process automation areas within our company. Collins has over 10 years of experience in building business process automation and intelligent document processing solutions. Throughout the years, he has worked with multiple intelligent data capture and process automation products. In his role here, he supports customers, partners, and the sales team with finding the perfect fit of intelligent data capture and process automation technologies for their requirements, designing the high-level solutions, guiding projects to a successful outcome, and supporting them afterwards. Collins was very integral in selecting our RPA solution provider, which is Electronic. These are our speakers for today. A little bit about who we are. Initium SoftWorks, or ISW, is the next generation of the 30-year-old software division of MTS Software Solutions, where we deliver successful digital transformation solutions. As you can see, we have a global reach of clients, and like most companies, I'm sure a lot of you people on this call as well around the world, we have found success in our post-COVID 100% remote workforce. The only way we can make that happen and be successful and achieve the awards and success that we have is because of our tenured staff, on average 20 years plus experience in the industry. Down at the bottom left corner there, talk a little bit about some of the categories of solutions that we provide. We are best-in-class providers of intelligent data capture. At ISW, we incorporate some of the state-of-the-art intelligent data capture solutions, machine learning, AI solutions for large, medium, and small businesses. Intelligent process automation, including all the tools like RPA, that automates the day-to-day processes. Intelligent content services, also known as content services, and you may also remember it as enterprise content management. These solutions that we provide govern your documents from ingestion to destruction and pretty much everything in between. The intelligent name now really applies to the last category on the right, workflow and case management. Now they're inherent in most of the intelligent content services solutions and platforms that are out there. We have a proven experience to construct simple or complex workflows and design strategic custom case management solutions as well. Down at the bottom, you'll see all the amazing vendors and solution providers that we use to help you achieve your digital transformation goals. And that's who we are. So Electronic may be a name you've not heard of in the past. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about who they are and why we chose them. Well, we could have chosen a lot of them because there's a lot of RPA technology providers out there that we could use, but we chose to go with Electronic. Our key requirements for selecting them as our vendor was the solution, bottom line, is all the awards that they have won. They are feature rich, they're easy to configure and maintain, they have great ROI, and most importantly, offered competitive pricing and savings that we could pass on to you. So looking at the screen and the awards that they've received, need I say more about why we selected Electronic? Well, let me turn it over to John Emmett from Electronic to cover why managed automation services are a good choice. John?
Yeah, thanks, David. Yeah, Electronique is totally focused on delivering no-code, low-code hyperautomation solutions to our MSP community. And our mission is to enable MSPs to start and grow highly profitable and scalable automation services businesses. So, as you mentioned, I wanted to talk a little bit about why should businesses consider managed automation services as opposed to building out their own capabilities in this area. And the first reason is that most small and medium-sized businesses don't have the resources or the expertise to implement technologies like robotic process automation. They just don't have that expertise in-house. So this is where MSPs like ISW can step in to fill that gap, because you have that expertise, you have that knowledge base, you have that experience, and that you can use that to help your clients successfully deploy RPA technologies and automate their business processes. And by leveraging an MSP, businesses can do this at considerable cost savings over building out their own capabilities here. They'd have to hire people, they'd have to buy the software, they'd have to train their developers on those tools. So there's a lot of expense there. So by using an MSP, it's much more affordable, and it reduces the risk of the project failing, right? Because again, they're leveraging a service provider that has this experience and expertise. So dramatically reduces cost and risk. And finally, it's a way for them to continue to focus on their core business. They're putting the technology around RPA into the hands of the experts, the MSP, and that allows them to focus on their core revenue generating opportunities. So let's talk a little bit about what RPA is not. And first, it's not a use of physical robots. So we're not talking about machines that walk around. We're talking generally about what's known as software bots that are used to automate business processes. And one of the concerns that we sometimes hear is that RPA is going to eliminate jobs. But again, generally, this is not the case. Generally, RPA and automation are going to make employees' lives better. What it does eliminate is the boring, repetitive tasks that people don't like to do anyway. So it frees up the employees to do the critical thinking, to do the analytical thinking that will help further advance the business and removes those mundane drudgery types of tasks. Now back over to you, David.
Thanks, John. So what is RPA then? Well, let's start off. It is a critical technology to automate businesses. And guess what? If you don't use it, your competitors are, because it is that critical. To John's point, there are people, there are organizations, who hires on in a job that says, hey, I just want to keystroke this all day long and just move data from this spreadsheet to this spreadsheet. I mean, very few people, if anybody, wants to do that. It's a critical technology to advance the success of the business. It replicates repetitive and boring employee tasks. It is, as John said, minimal. No-code technology requires very little employee involvement. These processes can be kicked off manually, or you can even schedule them. Once it's done and it's working, you set up a schedule and you never have to do it or think about it anymore. And most importantly, it offsets the great resignation. You probably have heard of that. Post-COVID, businesses are finding it hard to staff open positions. Well, instead of hiring more staff for repetitive keystroke tasks, utilize process automation tools that don't take days off, don't eat lunch, don't want off on the weekends. It's a solution that provides 365, 24/7 availability to work on the things that need to be done critical in your organization. Here are a couple of examples of what RPA is. So let's take a look at a few more here as well. Well, it's pretty obvious. We already talked about that. Here's some additional good reasons here. You gain competitive advantage. The operational efficiencies, they help you beat your competition, can be applied here as a result of RPA. You have increased cost savings. On average, you can get a cost savings of about 50% when you automate human tasks with 100% accuracy. You eliminate errors. And here's the flip side of this. When there's an error, guess what? Someone has to look at it, analyze it, find it. It's got to be redone. All of those steps do not exist anymore with a process automation solution. So the rework effort doesn't exist anymore. So there's an additional cost savings. And finally, you get freedom from manual processes that are boring and demotivating, processes that sap motivation, productivity, and creates employee burnout. A couple of quotes to support this from Forrester Research states, companies with advanced automation programs will obliterate, not merely beat, but obliterate the competition. And another one by Xerox. Xerox states that 80% of small, medium-sized business leaders see automating tasks and processes as important to their survival. So this is all very, very important. Bottom line is, let's task robots for the routine, and let's task our people for their talent. Take a look at a couple of broad use cases now. And I use the word broad specifically because they are very specific and individualized. You know, one business may want a bot or a process to do A, B, C, and D. And that may not be replicated to any other business because it's very exclusive to your systems, your processes, the people, things that they do, where it's going to go, all of that. So these are very broad use cases. And I have a little gift for you at the end that'll help you out a little bit better too, looking at some use cases. First one here, copying and pasting between systems, files, folders, moving things. That is one good example. Another one, data entry into web forms from Office applications, legacy systems as well. Downloading, searching, extracting, and downloading browser data. Here's a good example. We had a mortgage client, and they paid a service to go out and access their competitors' websites just to make sure that their interest rates were in alignment and competitive. So they would do this every day. They would then add this information into a report, run this report on this data, which is then reformatted into another system to do some analysis and formulas. Finally, it was downloaded into a PDF so it could be searched. They exported it into another system and an Excel spreadsheet as well. Every one of those steps and tasks were automated by utilizing a bot or a process automation. So here's just one small example that was used as well. The next one talks about emails, accessing and routing emails, because Outlook is one of the out-of-the-box applications that can be configured to do this in the electronic solution. Another one, filling in forms with data and information, creating reports, performing calculations. Again, a lot of these things are very similar to what the process automation solution provides. Another good example here, think about in every one of your organizations, you have HR. You have new employees coming in. What about that onboarding process? We had another company where that onboarding process of filling in paperwork, sending out emails, sending out attachments, the documents that the employee needs to review, take a test on, or whatever it happens to be, all of that was automated by process automation. And then it took that information and you know what it did too? Took it and sent it out to the payroll system, automatically added them to the payroll system. Nobody's manually keying all this in. And think about this, when you talk about filling in forms, you're getting data from someplace. So if I'm the one who's doing it, I have to have this screen open with this data, my other screen open with that data. I'm cutting and pasting, or I'm typing from one to the other. Think about how much time that takes when, and you'll see in our demonstration, all it takes is the bot to reach in there, grab that field, put it in, boom, 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 boom. So all of that process becomes automated. And finally, the last one is logging into additional systems, reading and writing data to and from different databases. So these, again, are just some broad case uses and examples of how RPA can be applied in your organization. Harvard Business Review article referencing RPA, some of the stats that I've researched here. One health insurer, after adopting RPA, found that they could process their claims 6 times faster. An agricultural and food company improved their productivity 75% with a quadrupled return on investment. This is Harvard. This is not me. They said CEOs love it because it's power to transform customer and employee experiences. CFOs appreciate it and its potential to grow efficiency exponentially. Line of business managers found that the leaders are like it because it has clear results based upon what it's delivering. They know exactly what the business is, and it's delivering exactly what their people used to do. And CIOs embrace it because it has low code, no code, simple configuration tools. So those are just some of the things that were referenced in a Harvard Business Review article as well. So at this time, it's enough me talking. It's time to take a look at the big stuff now. So I'm going to turn it over to our system expert, Collins, to provide you a demo and some examples.
Yeah, thank you all for that information. So we're going to be looking at two different demos today. One being invoice entry, specifically invoice payment entry. So typically during an invoice lifecycle throughout a company, it'll come in via email or scanned in. It'll go in through hopefully intelligent data capture, which automatically extracts that key information needed to pay that invoice, would go through a workflow in the content services. And at that point, we would need to, once it's been approved, generate an export file. So this export file, the customer could typically enter that in manually or pay for a developer to come and customize a program that can enter that into the accounting system. But today we'll be looking at how a bot can do that. The next demo is a custom reporting demo. We'll be taking data from a Jack Henry PDF that was generated. It was a report that was generated in a Jack Henry system. And we'll be taking data from that report and putting it into a specific Excel spreadsheet that's required for MasterCard to do their credit card settlement and settle the credit card transactions. Those are the two we'll be looking at. We'll go ahead and get into our first one. We'll be looking at this first file, which is a invoice information file. It's got information here about the image, so we can put the image into the system if needed. It's got the remit to address information, the vendor name, invoice number, invoice date, the total, all the information needed to post this payment is located in this spreadsheet. So I'm going to go ahead and close this. If a user was having to come in here into the specific accounting system and enter this data in manually, first off, they would have to log in. They would have to go into the payment section and they would have to click add new. They'd have to wait for the page to load. Since I haven't logged in a while, you can see it's logged me out. So I have to enter in my account information again. So this is just another waste of time that the user would be spending. And making sure I enter in the right password. So once it comes up, I can then come over here and manually enter in all of my information. The date, I would have to have either the invoice printed out so I can look at it, or the file that was generated after it's gone through and been approved, and I would enter in all of this data manually. Well, rather than doing all that manually, what we've done is we've set up a bot to come out here and do this. So I'm going to log out and I'm going to pull up our bot studio. So we've created this bot to come in, and I'll go ahead and play that. And now that I've clicked play, I'm no longer in control. The bot's in control. The bot's logging in for me. I don't have to worry about remembering my password. The bot's going into the invoice payment screen. It's entering in all the information needed for that payment. It can enter in both header and line item data. This information is getting entered in accurately. There's no errors. As long as the data provided is accurate, then the data that the bot's entering is going to be 100% accurate. You don't have to worry about a user cutting and pasting from the wrong row, or cutting and pasting from the wrong invoice or the wrong amount or total. They can just, the bot will do it exactly as you tell it to do. The bot can also do this a lot quicker than a user. The bot doesn't take breaks. It can work on a 24-hour period. We have some clients who have to enter in thousands of invoices a day. So they could have a bot running full time, just continuously doing this with invoices. You can make clones of the bot. So you can easily just take a bot and clone it, and this process can happen twice as fast. So there's lots that you can do with a bot. And I know this particular use case that you're seeing right here is specific to accounts payable and invoice processing, but this can be used in any department, any industry where you're taking data from, whether you're taking data from an Excel spreadsheet or you're taking data from an actual application. So the bot's finished, and what the bot did was it took this data that was exported after approval, and it was inputting the PDFs and the vendor information, the remit to information, the vendor name, invoice number, invoice date, the total, and that line information was all being entered in to the accounting system via a bot. So if we go look here, we can see that we have 9 payments that were just entered in without any assistance from a user, just taking data from a spreadsheet and putting it into this accounting system. And, like I said, any department, any industry, you're taking data from one area, putting it into another system, whether it's a web application or a Windows application, it can all be done with a bot. Our second use case is going to be taking data. This is taking data from that custom report or that report generated. It's a SD91 report from a Jack Henry system. And it's taking this data. The report that's generated already has searchable text. So we don't have to worry about using any type of data capture to capture that text and convert it to searchable text. So the bot can just come in here and out of the box, grab this data and put it into a specific spreadsheet. So if we take a look at this spreadsheet, it's got multiple sheets that need to be filled out. It's got multiple columns that need to be filled out. If it's a credit, it needs to be filled out in one column versus a debit in the other. So the bot has to determine that as well, just based off of whether it's a negative or a positive value over here on our actual report. So what the bot will do, and this one's not as exciting as the other because it uses out-of-the-box activities that Electronic provides for Microsoft Office, which includes Excel, and it's going to fill in that report. So let me go ahead and close my report, and I will open up my bot studio. And again, this bot was set up to go through and take the data from that PDF and put it into the Excel spreadsheet. So I'm going to run this bot, and again, this is specific to Jack Henry and MasterCard, what you're seeing here. But again, it can be used in any department, any industry. We have some clients who their boss requires them to take data from a system and put it in a specific Excel format just because that's what they're used to seeing and that's what they want to see. So they have to do that every day. So we could set up a bot that just goes out and grabs that data from that system and puts it in the format. We could even send it to a printer if they'd like us to do that. And their boss can pick that up every morning, or they can put it on the boss's desk.
Yeah, just real quick, everybody, as he's going through this and it's kind of, popping off the synapse in your brain here, and you're going like, hey, I got some questions. Drop your questions in the QA section down at the bottom there. Just hover over and open it up. Add your questions here and we'll answer those at the end. But Colin, so here's a good example. We see that process was running in the background there and that little window in the bottom right. How would I know when that one is done?
So once it's done, there's multiple things we can do. We can send an email notification to a user with the newly generated report if needed. So that would be one way we could contact the user. We can also send text notifications if they want to know, or we can generate a daily report and at the end of the day with a bot and forward that information along to the users if needed. So as you can see, that took about a little less than a minute to do. And that's taking over 100 fields from this report off across multiple pages and filling out. We'll open up our export so we can see actually what it accomplished. So we can see that there was data populated now. Before, these were all zeros. So we have our data populated. We have calculations that have been done. Data has been populated across multiple pages or across multiple sheets within the Excel spreadsheet. And like I said, this took a minute to do. And this customer has, sometimes over 100 of these to do a day. So it can take anywhere from a half an hour to over 2 hours for them to perform these actions and fill these in every day. So the savings there is just, having a bot do it, it relieves their users of, this mundane task and boring task of just taking data from one area and put it in the other, and they can focus on more maybe customer related or knowledgeable items. After showing you that, the main point of RPA is to task the robots for the routine and task the people for the talent.
Thanks, Collins. And I throw this challenge out to everybody, as those bots were running, I mean, there really was quite a bit of effort that was going on with that. And I challenge you to think of, okay, what would I have my people that are doing this now, what would they be doing instead of that? And that really, to me, is the real value and opens up the doors to the possibilities of how you can really work on developing your business and not just executing processes. All right, so now we're at the question and answer section. And again, we got a little thing here at the bottom. I want you to stay on. We got a little free offer here at the end of this for you all. So let's go ahead and John, I don't know if you can see if you have any questions on your end. I have a couple that came in prior as well. So I'll reach out to you first, John.
Yeah, go ahead with the ones that you have there, David.
Okay, very good, everybody. Collins, if someone's interested and they want to work with us on this, what is the process that you go through? Say, okay, you know, how are we going to start this, and what are the processes for that?
Yeah, so the first thing we go through is kind of a requirements gathering and a discovery type process, because a lot of times we see, you hear a lot about how there's a high percentage of automation that fails. And the reason that is not because the automation doesn't work, it's because they didn't pick the right task to automate. So the first thing we do is we go in and make sure it's a valid and feasible task to automate. And then once that's done, we go in and we have our engineers design and different interactions that bot's going to go through and put a plan behind building that. Once they've built that and tested it on our side, they'll then go into a UAT phase where we can then have their users test, and then we'll push that into production. There's always continuous improvement that can occur. A lot of these systems, because cloud systems, they upgrade. You can't control when your cloud system's going to get upgraded a lot of times. And that being said, they could change screen or input or require new fields. And because Electronique provides that bot studio, we can easily go in and fix that with no amount of time.
Another question, how long does it typically take to create and deploy a bot to automate a business process? Now, I know that's going to be based upon what the process is, but, just kind of give us, a couple of examples. I know you've already done a good number of these as well. So, kind of give a little bit of an idea on timing.
Yeah, it's highly dependent on the amount of touch points and what all is going on within that process. But these two bots that we looked at today, first being the data entry bot, we were taking about 20 fields of header data and from an Excel spreadsheet and putting that data into an application. That took just a few hours to build. The second bot, which wasn't very exciting, everything was kind of happening in the background. That took a few hours to build, but a little longer. And you would think that the entering data into a third-party application would take a little longer, but it was just the amount of fields in that particular document that needed to be transferred into Excel. The time to go and get each field, that's what made it take a little longer. It's not that it was harder, just took a little longer. So it really varies and depends on the process. There's some that would take weeks to build because multiple integrations, we don't necessarily know the data right off the bat, and how the data is formatted and what's needed. It all really depends on the project.
Another one, give me an example of a bot that you can do with emails and attachments.
So there's multiple things we can do with the bots with emails and attachments. So for one customer, they have emails coming in for multiple departments, and we use what's called a content analysis or semantic text analysis to go in and understand the meaning behind the email. Example would be complaints versus praises. We've used machine learning to train a model around how to understand whether or not an email is a complaint versus a praise. And then from that model, we can route the emails accordingly, complaints to one department and praises to the other, or can put them in folders accordingly. So that's one way of just using semantic analysis. We have another customer who uses it based on the email sender, who sent the email. All right, if this person sent this email, put it on this folder in the network share versus other user in another department, put it in this department's folder. So they can use it as a way to kind of electronically file things based on the user who sent it or the subject line. So there's multiple ways. Another way is monitoring a mailbox for invoices and pulling those invoices and putting them into a data capture system so that data can be captured and those invoices can be processed.
A question came up about ROI, while that is very specific in the particular process, what are some of the non-tangible values that you've seen or add-ons, value adds, if you will, for those clients that you have built bought within their organization?
In these particular cases that I mentioned before, the complaints versus praises, it gave them more time to focus on the interaction with that customer. Whereas on the AP side, it gave them more time to focus on knowledgeable activities and activities where decisions needed to be made versus just straight up logic. And gave them time to focus more on the vendor relationship, because that was more of an AP focused use case.
Collins, what have you seen as far as an area of focus that are really maximizing process automation solutions, maybe departments, industries, things of that nature?
I do see it really big in the finance department and financial industry. There's a lot of data comparison that needs to be done, whether it's taking data from a document and validating that data. And we can link a bot to a database, and we can take a document in, make sure that that data is valid, and then process that document. We can take data from one format, because there's a lot of financial processes that basically just need the data translated for them. And we would take the data and put it in the format that's needed for the next system that they're passing that data to. So I see a lot there, a lot in HR with new employees and employee onboarding. You mentioned that earlier. There's a lot of stuff, whether it's just the paperwork that needs to be done, emails that need to be sent out, systems that need to be updated, but there's also the IT side of it. Some of these big companies, they have to assign access for each new user to 20 different applications, depending on what department. Well, you could set up what's called an attended bot, to where the user would pop up a user entry screen. They could provide it with the new employee information. Once that new employee information has been entered in, along with the department that they're being created for, it will then send bots out to go create that employee package, send the employee all the employee onboarding information, go out into each of the IT systems and create a new user for that employee in each of the systems. And you could use it to set up a new computer if you'd like. I see it being used all over the place. It's not really a specific industry or department.
John, do you have any questions on your end?
David, yes, we just got a question. The
Okay.
question was, can this software be integrated with other software as an add-on?
Good question. Yeah. Collins?
Yeah, that's a big part of what RPA allows you to do is, rather than having to go out and pay a developer who may spend months trying to create an integration, you can go in and show a bot how to do that. And one way to do that is through the use of Bot Studio. So with that first use case where we were doing payment entry, what we did was we set up a bot to go in, open a URL, input a username, set the password, click login, read an Excel file, loop through that Excel file, and for each row in that Excel file, go in and enter data into particular areas on the screen. And that's all done through this, point and click user interface to easily highlight, what field you need to enter. If it's an older legacy application, we've seen green screens where we need to enter in data that may not have that metadata behind the fields. You can use machine vision to kind of take a screenshot of where you need to enter that data, and it'll use that screenshot to know that, hey, here's where I need to click and use the keyboard to enter in that data. So it's very easy to integrate with other systems. There's also the ability to call APIs. So if other applications that you want to integrate with provide APIs to interact with it, you can easily create that API call via point and click user interface. So you just provide it the URL, the method, the header information, and go from there.
If anybody has any questions about their own environments, their own processes, whether it be finance, accounting, HR, there's, as Colin said, there's a lot of different applications for the technology, and it's kind of the sky is the limit. So
Yeah.
please ask questions if you have them. We actually have another question from the same person. Is it more for cloud-based software or can it be used for individual install software on the actual machine?
It can be used for individual install applications on the machine, either or. So like I said, the legacy applications, whether it's a green screen application, whether it's a Windows or a Java-based application, it can interact with any of those.
Sure, and you were talking about integrations, and one of the things that I know is a common integration would be between RPA tools and OCR, optical character recognition. So if you're trying to extract information from an image that's not in text form, so you can use OCR tools to do that, and then use the bot to process that information. So that's another common example of integrations between different tools to accomplish some task.
Everybody, I just want to kind of wrap up now. Thank you for your questions. I want to thank you, everybody, for attending our webinar. As you can see in the right-hand side of the screen, there it says, in doubt, reach out. And we're here to help answer any of your questions and do a consultation with you as well and talk you through some process automation, how it really can be applied to your individual use cases. Because again, you see they're very broad, but they're very individualized. So it's hard to get anything to any specificity that may apply to your scenario in your organization. And it gives us a little bit of an opportunity to talk with you about that. So in the chat box now, you will see, we're going to post there our URL link, which is on the slide here as well for scheduling a consultation with us so that we can go ahead and connect you with one of our experts. So to wrap up here, in the webinar, we offered you some details about what RPA is and what it isn't, some use cases, the demo. There are so many use cases that process automation can be applied to in your organization. We only covered a few of them here. So to better help you understand the totality of process automation application, we go to the next screen here. Here is your free gift. We're going to post this in the chat as well. There's a URL we'll post in the chat for you. And it is an ebook on 101 use cases for RPA. This, you'll be amazed just how many areas that this could be applied to. And again, it's one of those where you don't know what you don't know. So we say, hey, can you think of some use cases? And you'll say, oh yeah, but you know what? When you look through this 101 RPA use case ebook, you will find things there that you go like, I never even thought that that was a consideration. So here is your free gift. Thank you so much for your time. So on behalf of Initium SoftWorks, Electronique, all of our presenters, we thank you for your attention and your participation. You'll have a great rest of the week. Thank you.